For years, I have dreamed about interviewing a voice buyer to get their take on voiceover marketing, to hear from the other side, as it were, to find out what are we getting right, what are we getting wrong, what makes them want to reply, what makes them want to scream and send us straight to the spam folder. And today I get to fulfill the dream of that episode by speaking to a voice actor who also happens to be a talent director for a production company. And he happens to be a best-selling author and a keynote speaker and a marathoner. Welcome to the show, Jeff Savage.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. Quite an honor, actually. I've been following you in my career for a long, long time. So thank you.
We'll see how you feel about me after this episode, because I have been so afraid to do this episode for one reason. I always thought that if I brought one of my clients on, they're going to end up getting bombarded with 1,000 marketing emails from voice actors trying to implement everything that they learn from the interview itself. And so then either in the end, the client is going to hate me, or worse yet, they're going to replace me. And so I just want to say that if you get slammed this week now with all these marketing emails, it is not my fault.
No, understood. Actually, I look forward to highlighting, some best practices to give people some reassurance and to maybe give them some course correction on some things that they might do better, or some things to look out for. So I look forward to the opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're going to get into. But before we get there, in 2014, my grandma passed away from dementia, and I wanted to do something to honor her. And so, even though I had not run since high school, which for me was early to mid 90s. I decided to enter a 5-kilometer race and raise money for Alzheimer's research. So I trained for a couple of months just on my own, raised $1,000, ran the 5K, finished 13th out of 100 or a couple hundred people. And I was so proud of that accomplishment. No word of a lie, Jeff. The jersey is hanging on the wall right over here. I got the jersey and the medal and my little number framed and hung it up there just as a reminder of my ability to accomplish something that I thought there was no way that I could possibly accomplish. So I want you to tell me why you marathon.
Well, marathon is it's an amazing endeavor. It really teaches you a lot about life. And you mentioned the introduction about being a best-selling author. I took what I learned from running a marathon and really started to identify that the same things that make you successful when you run a marathon are the same things that make you successful in life. You talk about pacing yourself. You talk about the way you talk to yourself in your own mind, remembering why you started when you have a long endeavor in front of you, and just always remembering to put one foot in front of the other, no matter what. These are the things that a marathon teaches you. But yes, when you do something hard, when you do something difficult, it convinces you that you have the ability to do something hard and difficult more in your life. And so that's why I run marathons. It's an amazing endeavor to stretch yourself to your limits.
I know that in your public speaking, you talk about celebrating wins and also about rewarding ourselves. Okay. And that's what made me think about, that jersey that's hanging on the wall and celebrating that win of that accomplishment. Why do we need to do that? And how does it apply on the voiceover side?
Well, it is always a good reminder to, when you're feeling discouraged and you feel like you're overwhelmed or that your life may have just gotten stagnant. There's always that reminder that you did something really great in your life, that you picked up, at a part where you didn't feel secure or very strong in yourself, and you move forward regardless of even with those fears and those doubts and those hesitations. How does that apply to your voiceover career? Well, those small wins that you can get along the way, when you book that client, when you get on that roster, when you book that national TV commercial, those are signposts in your career that you've done something remarkable. And when you start to maybe you hit a valley, maybe you hit a desert in your career, or just a dry spell, you can look back and you say, you know what, might not be happening right now, but man, that I had it there. And it's a great thing to inspire you to keep moving forward. But celebrating those wins is very important in that regard. So
I think it's one of those things, and I encourage people with this in my own coaching, that we have accomplished so much more than we give ourselves credit for in most cases. because we're so focused on the next thing or the next goal or the next achievement, and maybe it's taking us longer to get there than what we thought, or maybe it's harder to get there than what we thought, or maybe we're questioning whether or not we can even get there. And so we get so caught up in that we often forget about, but man, you did this and this and this, and you achieved that, and you booked that, and you got nominated for this award or won that award or got signed by this agent or whatever. And so having that, I call it your greatest hits list that you can look back on as a reminder of, you know what, actually, I've done a lot and I'm doing okay. That can sometimes be the thing that gives you the mindset shift that pushes you to that next goal or accomplishment or achievement. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. You talk about your medal and your bib, and kind of hanging on to those keepsakes and those little trinkets and things that remind you of that. Yep. Every race that I've run, I have the medal on the wall, and it's just kind of like my wall of fame. It always is a reminder of the things that I've done. I think it's a really great idea as a voice actor, to whether it's on your website or whether you just keep a whiteboard in your booth or your office to just keep a list of all the great spots that you've done or the clients you work for. Just a visual reminder of that can really just remind you that this is a tough journey, but you've made some great progress.
You've done some things. Right on. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go back to 2013. This is the beginning of your voiceover journey. So what was the catalyst that made Jeff say, I think I'll give this whole voiceover thing a try?
Actually, it's the worst. It's the worst reason to get into it ever that I've come to find out over the course of time. But I actually came from Los Angeles.
Your grandma told you had a good voice, right? Was that it?
Seriously, no, that's it. But it wasn't just my grandma. It wasn't my aunt. It wasn't my mom. It was people in the entertainment industry. It was people at Starbucks. It was people, random strangers, just making comments. Wow, you got a great voice. You should be in radio, or you should do this. And in the back of my mind, I always said, you know what? Sounds great, but I don't know, maybe. And I heard it over and over and over and over and over again. And so I just had this, I just felt like I was being kind of edged into like giving it a try. But as you come to find out when you get into the realm, having a great voice is just, it's not enough to guarantee success. In fact, everybody has a great voice. And when you get into voiceover, you realize that it's the unique voices that really, it's not the deep resonant voices that, announcer and this and everything that get all the attention. And but it wasn't until I moved here, I moved to Dallas from Los Angeles. And when I moved here, I really just decided to kind of jump into it. Moving to Dallas, there was this realization that Dallas is a hotbed for animation. And a lot of the anime voiceover dubs from English happen here in Dallas. And so a lot of people, there's a big voiceover community here. And I met people, got introduced to the right people, the right coaches, and actually took the time to learn the craft and the skills and things like that, instead of just believing that my voice was enough. So that's how it all began.
Does your background as a marathoner translate into how you approached voiceover then? Because so many people, I think, just jump into this with unrealistic expectations, or you don't know what you don't know. They saw an ad on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They go out, they buy their microphone, they sign up for their online casting, they're ready to go, or so they think. I'm guessing because you come from a background of training that you must have known going in, this is probably going to take a minute, take a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. My marathon journey and my voiceover journey kind of happened concurrently at the same time. They both had a very similar starting point. So as I progressed in through my voiceover journey, I was kind of incorporating the things that I was learning in marathon training to kind of just help me realize that it's not a sprint. It's, they say life's a marathon, not a sprint. A voiceover career is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It is putting one foot in front of the other. It's being patient. It's pacing yourself. And these are things that training for marathons actually helped me set realistic expectations and not feel like it was going to just be, I can do funny voices and, here's my Bart Simpson impersonation, things like that.
So we fast forward almost a decade, 2022. Mm-hmm. You end up as a talent director at a production company that you had been marketing to as a voice actor. I have to hear this story.
Yeah, the initial interaction came from the executive producer, Scott, is at Sync Lab Media, was a guest of mine at a fine dining restaurant that I was working at. See, as a actor in general, relying on acting and voiceover, often requires having a night job or something else. And I had a job waiting tables in a fine dining restaurant. And this producer was my guest that night. And he actually, in a very similar way, noticed my voice and said, "Wow, do you ever do voiceover?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And so we exchanged information. And over the course of many years, actually, we followed each other. I would send out outreach, but it wasn't until this one particular tweet that they sent out where they showed they were building a green screen studio in their workspace. And I had made a comment that I had similar experience in my own life helping my friend build a recording studio in his garage. So I formed a connective tissue. I formed a relevant bond to the client who then remembered me. And so that was my in that regards to actually kind of make it a more relationship instead of just I'm a talent, you're the buyer, etc. And through just more interaction, I ended up doing a job with them. And then they came to me and said, "Listen, we're trying to build this company up. We want to build our own talent department where we have a roster where our clients can draw from to, for their own productions and everything like that. Would you be interested in starting that department?" And I said, "You know what? This sounds like a job that I would really enjoy sinking my teeth into." So from the ground up, they just basically gave me the keys to the car and said, "Have at it, build this talent department." So I brought in my voiceover friends and things like that to become part of the roster. But then it's been fun just learning how the acting community in Dallas here works, meeting other voice actors and bringing them in. It's almost like being an agent, where you are vetting talent and things like that. But it was just interacting with them, just with the client on social media through email and things like that, which really led to that relationship being formed.
What I love about that was that it didn't happen because you were beating them over the head with marketing emails asking for voiceover work. Like the catalyst there was, "Oh, I see you're doing this thing and I can help you do that thing." Right? You just add value, build relationship, right?
Exactly. And I don't know if anybody ever reached out to them and said, "I've done what you're doing and I understand the pain points and I can relate to you in that regard." So that was just it was a natural way to kind of just extend the conversation.
Yep. Yeah. Makes it stand out. So now that you are in that position, now this is where we have our Wizard of Oz moment where we get to peel back the curtain and see what's going on. So I'm curious, how many, ballpark, how many marketing messages and interactions have you seen from voice actors in your time? You've been doing it a couple of years now. And what percentage are good and what percentage are bad?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to preface this by saying when I got into the voiceover realm, my first original voiceover coach, he was very vague about what marketing was. And he said, it's like, "You got to market yourself. You got to market yourself. You got to market yourself." And without explaining to me what that meant, I went forward thinking that I knew what marketing was, and I had no idea. I went out and I made business cards. I made a website. I made postcards. I would go out and just hang my business card up in random places, hoping people would see it. And I did not know anything about email marketing and things like that. And so when I started to really get into it, that's actually when I found your podcast, the VOpreneur podcast, where I started to learn about the facets of successful business ownership and making taking those right steps forward. And I will tell you that I field a lot of the voiceover incoming messages, and there's it can be a few a week, it could be more than that, but some of the things that I've learned from just going through like the voiceover marketing playbook, you come to realize that certain people adhere to those things and certain people don't. And it's amazing to actually come across an incoming email where I know exactly they took the Mark Scott voiceover marketing playbook course, because there's a very clear-cut introductory email that is very short and to the point, but it just follows a sequence of of things that we learned from you. And there's times where I've actually replied back to them. I said, "Aha, you took the Mark Scott course," and that's kind of that fun way to kind of have that interaction. But there's real power in doing a little homework. And I will be honest with you, when I get an email, I read every single one of them. I want people to know that when they reach out to me, it's not something where it goes into some random inbox that may or may not ever get seen. Every email gets read. Every email gets read. And the ones that stick out to me are the ones that did their homework, the ones that actually learned something about the company. Or even still, like I got one the other day and said, "Hey, on your LinkedIn post, I saw that you did this production and I'm a big fan of that product." There was one where actually I posted on something that wasn't even voiceover related. And they said, "Hey, I noticed that you contributed to this book and I love the concept of the book." And, and just find these little things. It really made me say, this person's done their homework. And Mark,
they're putting in some effort, right?
That. It does. And what it really says is that it's how they took a task and took it to the next level. And what that really says, it says a lot about their own work ethic, where they're probably going to take a little bit of extra care in what they do and do it right. And so it's one piece of advice, finding that, just do some homework, make me feel like you've actually researched a little bit about our company and what we do. So
you're taking that to like a whole nother psychological level that even I had never really considered before. But it's a valid point that if this is the kind of person that will take the time to pay attention to the details in that manner on something like a marketing email, then that's somebody that's probably going to pay attention to the details when they're in a directed session or when they're working through a script or when you've asked them to record something and send it back or whatever. And so that's actually a really interesting insight. So the things that they're doing right are really just putting in that little extra effort to make a connection in some way or some capacity. That's not just saying, "Oh, look, here's another generic marketing message from a voice actor that could have been sent to any number of 1,000 different production companies."
True. Now there are some of the emails that we do receive. A lot of people, they say the same things. And I mean, imagine if you are a professional voice actor, I already imagine that you have a good quality sound, environment at home, that, you may have worked with, other companies in the past and things like that. What I often get though are messages that are just, they don't really say anything at all. They basically say, "I'm a voice actor. Here's my demos. Let me know if I can do anything for you." And there's no enticement for me to follow that up. And I want to say this is that some of these messages also come from well-established talent that have been around the industry for a very long time. And then there might just be this feeling that marketing is a numbers game. And the more that you blanket the landscape with emails, that somebody's going to bite. And but there's something to be said about just taking that 5 more minutes to just find that one tidbit on their website, and that says a lot.
The problem with that blanket approach is that eventually you run out of people to hit, and then if you go back to the beginning of the list again and you do the same thing all over, like you've already made a bad impression once, do you think a bad impression the second time is going to make a difference? I'm curious to know. So we've sent you an email. We've done a good job in the email. We've made a personal connection. We've put in the effort, whatever. I'm guessing at that point you click through to a website and you'll listen to demos and take the consideration a little bit further.
Absolutely.
Are there things that you look for? What is on a website that makes you go, "Okay, I'm interested in this talent"? Is it just the quality of their demos, or is there, and be honest here, is there a little bit of judging a book by its cover? Like you land on somebody's website and it looks like a 1990s GeoCities website and you're like, I'm not really sure about this person. Like what does that next step in the process look like for you?
No, and honestly, this comes from a little bit of empathy as being a talent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and this is kind of, what maybe makes me unique, and maybe it doesn't. I don't know the sampling of people who are voice buyers, if they are talent as well. But being in the trenches, I can be empathetic about certain people in certain phases of their career.
Sure.
For example, like you said, I didn't know what I didn't know when I started. Yep. And so when I got into it, if I'm taking the initiative to reach out and I'm professional about it, and I go to the website and it may not be, the most aesthetically pleasing, but
sure.
if there is some demos on there, but if there's no contact info, if there's no anything like that, then it's a head scratcher. But if the basics are there, I'm willing to look past that, because everybody needs a break. Everybody's in a different position, and
yep.
maybe they didn't have the capital or the budget to get a professional site done, because you can go through a service that actually builds a site for you and makes it very, very attractive. But you can also go on to GoDaddy or Wix and you can build your own. And it's going to be different for everybody who does that, depending on if they had a professional photo shoot done or if they're putting up a selfie or an animated picture of themselves. I'd rather take their professional outreach, and give them a chance.
Yep.
If they fall flat on their face, or they showed in the audition process or any instructions that I give them that they can't follow through on that, then that's my determining factor.
And that's a big one. That is one. So I don't do a lot of casting, but every once in a while, a client will come to me and ask me, "Can you help me?" Because they're looking for something that I'm not the right fit for.
Yeah.
And I am not shy about the fact that if I send you very specific instructions, like I need the file named like this, and I want the subject line to be this or whatever. If you boot those instructions, I am not passing you on to my client. And it's not because I'm a jerk, or it's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because if I can't trust you with the details, like you said, if I can't trust you with the details, why in the world would I trust you with one of my clients?
Yeah,
I need you to pay attention to that stuff. And so thank you for saying that, because I think that it's something, sometimes we get in such a rush. It's the pay to play mentality, right? You got to get the audition submitted immediately, because if you don't submit it in the first 20 minutes, 300 people have already done it. And so then we apply that thought process to all of our auditions. So it causes us to rush, and it causes us to miss some of those little details. And those are things that matter. Those are things that companies are absolutely paying attention to. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that point real quick, though?
Yes, please.
Now, there is something there, seeing incoming voiceover marketing has been great just for my own marketing and just seeing what people are doing. But there has been an incredible benefit to being the talent director in this business. And it's that feeling of like, when you are the talent and you are submitting for a pay to play site and you realize there's 87 other auditions that you're up against or more, there's always that feeling of like, what do the other 87 sound like? Right.
Yeah.
And so one of the great things that, and this is encouragement, I want to tell this point because I want people to know that, that it's amazing to hear back all the auditions that you send out. If you have a casting and you hear them all back out, most of the auditions are bookable. And it's that, in fact, sometimes I will be listening to them and I can't even decide. And it all really comes down to what the client wants. Client's going to choose one of those, but it's almost every single one had merit. Every single one could have been the winning job. So if you ever feel like, it's why bother, there's this many people that have submitted to it. If you have the talent, you have the chops, you're going to get heard. But it's just amazing to know that it's never like there's 20 really bad ones and 3 really good ones. It's just that there's a lot of really, really talented people out there who bring a little bit of different to their reads. And that's been one of the most eye-opening things about being a talent director is that you get to see it from the other side. And it really is it helps motivate me to continue to put my best foot forward, knowing that my best is often good enough. I wasn't the selection in that. So
what are you currently, what types of projects are you casting primarily right now?
Well, and that's another thing. And this is a great thing to kind of bring up as well, is that not all video marketing companies or video production companies are always doing things that have voiceover attached to them. Sure. And so a lot of our clients are actually on camera, small business owners, CEOs of, things wanting to get out their message, tell, in their own video marketing. And oftentimes it is them who come on who want to do it. And sometimes we need an on-camera spokesperson. So being the talent director and building this talent roster, I have voiceover and I have on-camera people and I have a hybrid of both. And so what we do is, it gears a lot towards on camera, but we do still do voiceover. So as a marketer, as a voice talent who is marketing to companies, just realize that the company you're marketing to might not, they might do voiceover, but they might not do a lot of voiceover. And so don't get discouraged if you are marketing this company, you think like, it's like, oh, wow, I want to be on their roster. There might not be a lot of voiceover opportunities in there, but it's hard to put a percentage on what we do, but I would say we gear more primarily toward on camera, talent, but we always love having the voiceover talent to have in our roster. And there's always opportunities for it.
Are you doing commercials or corporates or animations or training videos, or do you just kind of do a wide range of whatever your client needs on a given day? Or
yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of being a production company, is that you take we select what we're going to work on, but
sure.
It could be a documentary, it could be a product demonstration video, it could be a spokesperson for for a service or for a company's internal training videos. There's making online courses. Like, there are so many facets to video production that it's hard to just limit yourself to doing one little thing. So
is there anything that is trending for you guys right now as far as this is the style, like for the voiceover projects that you're doing, we're looking for this, or this is what's standing out, or this type of read, or anything like that you're keeping an eye out for right now?
I mean, not necessarily. We cater to what the client is ultimately looking for. Like, even though I have a large voiceover roster, if our client is wanting somebody who's more youthful, or is an older, or one has a British accent, or is maybe gearing more like in the Hispanic side of things, like, I will pull from my roster people who I feel could fit that and gear an audition or a casting towards that demographic. But sometimes our clients will say, hey, I want a female voiceover. And so I'll send it to everyone on the roster in that regard. So, but one particular read, one particular style, not necessarily in what we do, but I realize that in the advertising realm, there are things that are like, maybe more conversational, et cetera, even gearing more towards being more announcer type stuff and hype videos. And we don't really see that in what we do here at our company.
So let's step away from the marketing side for a minute and talk more about the direct relationship of the producer to talent, or, talent director to talent. Mm-hmm. What are the things that a voice actor can do when they're working in a relationship with a production company? What are the things that we're going to do that are going to make you want to work with us again? And what are the things that we're going to do that are going to get us pushed to the bottom of the pile?
That's good. Well, there is something to be said about staying in touch. If you're on the roster, I remember more people. I mean, front of mind are the people who, they reach out to me regularly and they give me, little highlights about what they're doing, or even and I get this even from your tips in your podcast. It's the little things like, letting me know when you're going out of town on vacation, just sending me a monthly newsletter about something that's happened in your life, a new demo, an award nomination. There's little things like that keep me engaged. But, sometimes it's just that, I know you're a big Boston Red Sox fan, and sometimes it's finding something that the other person likes and just being, just touching base, checking in. Yep. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to bother me. In fact, I kind of feel that.
Can you just say that one more time?
You're not going to bother me. That's the thing. And honestly, let's just get that over with here. Like,
yes,
this is my job. It is my job to read these emails and to field this communication. I'm honored that you send me your request. It tells me that there's people who want to work with us and who are to get over this notion that I don't want to market because I don't want to bother people. It just means that you don't you got to get over that hang up in your own mind, because it's your business and I want to hear from you. I want to know you're out there. So
that might be of everything, and I mean, you've been dropping tons of tips up to this point, but that might be my favorite one to hear you say that.
For
Because
sure.
I've been saying it forever, but I'm on the
Mhm.
voiceover side. So to hear
Yeah.
somebody on the other side say, no, you're not bothering me. If there's a good reason to get in the inbox and bring, stay top of mind or something
Mhm.
that's interesting or whatever, I want to hear from you. And it's okay to do that. And like you said, that's the thing that's going to make me think of you and potentially when I'm ready to do hiring. So what about on the other side? Are there mistakes that voice actors are making, whether innocent or, you don't know what you don't know? We've talked about that. Or, some people are just difficult to work with or whatever. But what are the things that, what's something or some things that we might do that could potentially hinder the relationship?
Being pushy, is one, like, it's one thing about not wanting to be like bothered, and things like that. But there is that unfortunate trend in email marketing that really come more from companies that are trying to sell you a service like SEO marketing or virtual assistants, or things that just come off very spammy. Where you don't respond to that email on that day, they're going to come back to you the next day and they say, hey, did you get my email? And then the third day saying, well, maybe we can set up a time to, talk on the phone. Every day for a sequence of like 12 days straight, there's another email from that person. Yes. And I've seen that's a trend. And that's a trend that I have seen from, unfortunately, some voice actors as well, where the marketing process is more like an aggressive campaign. Yeah. And those type of messages are ones that I'd be like, you know what? Like, that's just, it's so hard. It's so hardball, and like, and so those are things that don't do that, please.
Okay. That's good. That's a good tip.
Yeah. But otherwise, but there's another thing, being the talent. There's been an opportunity for me in fielding some like on incoming auditions, where I've had an opportunity to, as a friend, as a fellow talent, to reach back out to that person and say, hey, take a look at your audio levels in this. It's too hot. There's something wrong with your sound quality. I want you to know this, so moving forward, that it doesn't happen. And I realized that not a lot of people will do that, just coming from a talent, sure. So, but yeah, just performance wise and things like that. I know that this is a subjective field because we're all entertainers in some aspect. And so we all bring something different to the table. And I realize that people have different personalities. And so I'm not going to judge somebody for being overzealous in their craft. But if you're like spamming me and doing things like that, that's kind of a turnoff. So.
Are you guys doing directed sessions with your voice actors, or is it self-record?
It is mostly self. And if the situation ever came up, we have the ability to dial in a source connect and do things like that. But honestly, I've noticed that there's more of a trend to just kind of do directed sessions through Zoom and things like that. Anywhere, Google Meet. I just feel like the trend is kind of just becoming more casual as far as how people are dialing into to sessions and things like that. So when the time comes, when the client wants to be a part of it, that's great. But they kind of give that responsibility to me, just being somebody who's a talent who kind of knows in that regard. So
I'm curious to hear your take on this, because this is something else that I talk about. And I just actually went through this with my mastermind group this week. Somebody doing a directed session, nervous about the session. And I remember the first time that I did a directed session, an in-studio directed session. And they just kept saying, that's great. Can you do it this way? That's great. Can you do it this way? That's great. Yeah. What about this? That's great. And so I started getting really self-conscious as the talent. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, you are just freaking tanking this session. Like, this is humiliating right now. Right. So that starts to get into my head. And then I start to get nervous about the session and whatever. But the reality was the client just wasn't quite sure what they were looking for. And so they just keep asking for different variations until they find that one. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's important for talent, particularly talent that don't do a lot of directed sessions, or maybe you're coming up to do your first one, understanding that just because they're asking for more takes doesn't mean that you're bombing the session. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to hear your take on that from the other side of the curtain as somebody who has done these directed sessions.
Yeah, but there's times where you might like the line, but then you can draw a different emotion by asking them to do it again, or by asking for a different emphasis on a different word. Like I don't know if you remember the movie or the show Cheers or whatever, but
Yep.
there was this episode where Cliff sold a joke to the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and him and his mom went out to LA and they were in the audience, and Johnny Carson told his joke and it bombed. Nobody let the audience laughed. And the mom, like Cliff's mom, got up. She was a little bit upset. And she's like, no, it's all in how you told the joke. And it's like by emphasizing one word in the punchline, it made all the difference in the delivery of the message. And so after Johnny Carson changed that one line, everybody laughed. It was hilarious. It was awesome. But that's kind of a directed session. When I think about that, that comes to mind is that sometimes when you just change the emphasis in the way that you start the sentence and you emphasize one word or another, it changes the impact of the line. And so it might not be anything about your performance. It might just be that they want to hear it a different way. And it's all about safety. It's all about just getting the most bang for their buck. They got the talent here. They want to just, they want to have as much, options as possible.
Sure. So. That's when I laugh. It used to bother me a little bit, but then I realized, like, look, they're paying me to sit here. If they want to record 80 different versions, then let them record 80 different versions. I know they're going to use one of the first 3, but whatever, let them record their 80 different versions. But it was a big mindset shift for me when I realized, no, this is not because you stank or because you're tanking the session. It's just because they're looking for something, or they're trying to figure it out, or they want to hear a different variation or whatever. But okay, so we've pulled back the curtain, so to speak, on what it's like on the other side of our voiceover marketing, and even getting some insights into working with a producer and whatnot. But I know that's not the only curtain that you pull back in your career. You also have a show called Take Two that
indeed
pulls back the curtain, so to speak, on the life of working performers. So what are some of the struggles that your guests are talking about right now, other than AI?
Well, the talk show became it was an extension of the starting a talent department, and being that I'm working in a video production facility, there was an opportunity to have my own talk show, and I said, what better way to talk about the real life struggles and triumphs of working performers in the acting world? From the outside looking in, we often see glamour, we see red carpets, we see award shows, we see paparazzi, we see autographs, we see all the accolades, but we don't really understand that acting is a craft and a journey that is a lot of highs and a lot of lows to it. And so Take Two is actually a play on words. It is where we take 2 actors and get 2 takes on the real lives of working performers. And, it's amazing to find that a lot of actors have the same struggles and the same pain points. It's the ability to support yourself and financially as you pursue acting. A lot of people want to be full-time actors, but need to have other forms of income to support their passion. There's finding a work-life balance that's also often very, very challenging as well. For as many challenges as there are, there's so many great things. Taking creative risks, feeling confident about performance, and the camaraderie you get from people in the acting community is just it's just a great topic to explore. And when you actually get to hear like the real life struggles of actors, and funny moments, and embarrassing takes, and and things like that, it's a fun, engaging look at the acting community as a whole. So
it can be a very and voiceover in particular can be a very solitary endeavor, right? I mean, I'm in my basement all day. I'm in my booth alone in most cases. Like, very rarely is it a directed session or there's somebody else to talk to. And so sometimes it's really easy to feel like you're the only one that's out there, or you're the only one that's dealing with it or whatever. So I can imagine having the opportunity to talk about some of that stuff and share some of those things, and then realizing, oh, hey, wait, you're dealing with that too? Oh, okay, good to know it's not just me.
But it's also putting a face to a voice. In our upcoming season 2 premiere episode, I interviewed 2 animation voice actresses who bring life to some of your favorite animated characters, and to actually see them in the flesh, and to realize that they're real people and they have their own highs and lows. And it's an amazing conversation, especially for people who are fans of animation who never really get to see, who is behind, who brings to life their favorite characters. So
true. We will link that up into the show notes if anybody wants to take a look at that. And you said season 2 is coming up. When's season 2 officially underway?
Season 2 is going to premiere on June 26th, coming up here in a few weeks. So we'll release new episodes every 2 weeks throughout the summer. And you're going to hear some really great voice actors, on-camera actors, theater actors. We got some iconic Dallas-based legends that we interview as well. So it's awesome. It's a great sampling of the acting community, and really look forward to being more of a resource for up and coming actors all over.
Love it. So, I mean, at the top of the show, we talked about the fact that you are a man of many hats. You're doing all the things. You've written the book, you've done the voice acting, you're doing the talent directing, you've run the marathons. I know you are also a motivational and keynote speaker, and I was watching some of the videos on your website, and I know one of the things that you speak about is resilience, and that is a word that every voice actor, everybody in the entertainment industry, pretty much, either they're familiar with or they should become familiar with, because the industry, it's not always easy. It can be a grind. It can be seasons between projects and all of that sort of stuff. So speak a little bit on resilience. What do we need to know, and what do we need to understand, and how do we pull ourselves through to the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Resilience is often confused with the word perseverance. They are very similar. Perseverance is the will to move forward, but resilience is the will to move forward despite obstacles and overcoming obstacles along the way. And in anything in life, you are always going to encounter obstacles, and it's really about how we deal with those obstacles, how we take accountability for our actions and our thoughts, and how we look at life, and not play the victim to the things that are happening to us. In voiceover, if we're not booking, we might think, oh, woe is me, something's wrong. Negative energy compounds on each other. And the more negative energy that you put out there, the harder it is to really kind of move forward in anything. When you start to change the way you talk to yourself in your own mind, when you say, I can do this, I have the ability to do this, I have evidence that I've done this in the past, and now, and when you put out that positive energy, it helps you to put one foot in front of the other. But resilience is literally, it's all about finding your stride. And we're all running a marathon in life, whether it's, raising a family or going to college or pursuing a voiceover career. It's all about pacing yourself and just knowing that putting one foot in front of the other until you get to the finish line is basically, it's a lesson of the marathon. It's a lesson that I teach in my book.
I love it. Tell us about the book.
My book is called Savage Resilience. I use my last name as a branding method. Savage Resilience, literally the subtitle is Conquer Adversity and Be Your Own Hero. It's about taking accountability for your life and really looking at life as being being held accountable and using the qualities of the lion to talk about having a successful mindset. So you don't have to be a runner to understand the concepts of the book. There are universal truths that are just use a marathon as a metaphor for the journey of success.
Love it. All right, we'll link that up into the show notes as well. Well, Jeff, this has been amazing. It's so fun to hear from the other side and get some insights, and hopefully voice actors, I'm sure they're taking notes on this and figuring out what can we do a little bit better, where do we need to course correct in our marketing, because my guess is on the production side, I could probably interview 10 different producers, and I'm guessing I'm probably going to get a lot of the same responses as far as, this is what works and this is what doesn't work. And so it's really good to hear that and get that confirmation. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Any other pearls of wisdom, any other insights from all of your various and assorted ventures and things that you do that you think might be helpful for the VOpreneur?
It's a long game. It is a long game. You're not going to find success overnight. It's not a side hustle. It's not something that you're going to get rich quick by just doing this a couple hours a day and you're in your free time. This is a craft. This is a professional endeavor, and you really need to approach it in that manner. So many people come up to me and ask me, how do I get into voiceover? How do I do this? And, it is really kind of leveling with them and just saying, hey, I get the fact that you love to imitate and impersonate and to do these things, but it's your ability to really connect with the message and deliver it in a relatable way. And when I really just spell that out to people, be relatable, be authentic, but play the long game. This is not something that you're going to just get successful in immediately. Just consider it. This is a journey.
It's good advice. Good advice. It's a marathon. There you go. All right. If we'll put everything in the show notes, but if somebody wants to find you online, watch some of your videos or some of your talks, or grab a copy of the book or whatever, where do we find you? What's the website?
Is jeffsavageonline.com is my main website. So jeffsavageonline, all one word, .com.
Cool. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share. And again, I do apologize if you get inundated next week with 1,000 different marketing messages, but at least we know they'll be good, right? You'll know who was paying attention and who wasn't based on the emails that come in. But this has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you for taking the time to share.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.